Actually, so I was wondering, what do you believe?
I believe I'm tired today, and I kind of wish I hadn't come here. I believe I'm sort of tired today. I wish I hadn't come here. I'm still getting over COVID.
All right,
I'm looking for someone who's going to provide an interesting conversation, or an enlightening one, or someone who's, hunting for truth.
Yeah, well.
And there are people, but it's often quite difficult to find people.
Well, the thing about it is that when I'm trying to look at things relating to truth, I like to relate it to actually what's happening in the world.
Okay.
So, like, one of the things I like about about what's in the Bible is how you can link it to the events in the world. And
example?
Well, you might not have heard this because I wish that more like Christians would talk about this. But like how we are at the moment, and like we're in the world, we have to. The majority of people, they have to pay taxes, and the money that we pay, it doesn't. I just want to go a little bit over here.
Yeah, for a minute. But where are you heading? I need to know where you're heading with us.
All right. Yeah. No. What it is when you look at what's happening in the world, the fact that people are here, and when you look at the majority of people, they're just trying to enjoy their lives. If you notice, that's what the majority are trying to do.
Everyone's trying to get by. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously that's why they get the weekend in order to relax and
come here and yell at each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the main thing that's been set up though is that people have been drawn into these situations living in towns, and the main reason for living in a town is just so you can get close to your job.
With respect, you're not saying anything I disagree with, but I cannot see the connection between the gravity of conurbations and religion at this point. How do you join the dots? Sorry.
Yeah, maybe you're taking a bit too long. Well, what it is that the fact that the way things started out is we had people living in they used to live in the country. You used to have your little plot, and you had to deal with getting your own food. Yeah. And in that situation, people were independent. Right. But here's the interesting thing: is that when we read in the Bible, I don't know if you've heard about the mark of the beast.
No. We just landed. Thank you.
No, but
no offense. We just landed in the world of woo-woo. I don't. For Revelation, forget it.
Oh yeah, but you see, this.
I'm not buying Revelation.
But
I think it was written by a psychotic.
Yeah,
I don't believe in prophecy. Okay.
That's fine.
That whole way of thinking is just no.
But
it may be. I mean, I'll discuss it occasionally, but usually it's such a small chance, and it's so destructive and self-contradictory. It's not really. There's just more interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, but I'm trying to talk about around it, not.
I know, but if you're coming from a place where you take things like the mark of the beast seriously, then no offence, I'm probably not your guy.
But I'm giving a reason though. That's the thing.
You're going to need one hell of a reason.
Well, so do you want to hear it?
To be honest, I'm 99% that it's not going to be one which is going to bowl me over.
Alright,
okay? So if you can synopsize it in 1 minute, go for it.
Alright, so you got the market. It explains that everyone has to take the mark to buy and sell.
Well, I think are you going to lead me to barcodes or something?
No, that's just a statement that's in the Bible. So it says that you have to have the mark to buy and sell. Mm-hmm. Now, if people were living in a subsistence life where they had their own plot and they're growing their own food, then they wouldn't care about the mark. They wouldn't have to. So in order for people to be in a position where they do have to be in a position where they need it to buy and sell, you'd have to get them all into a town, isn't it? Or living in a city where they now rely on the food from someone else to come in. Because now you've got them, haven't you?
You see, that line of argument, I think it's cogent if you look at it along one particular line.
Right.
If you move your perspective to any other direction, it just starts to look flaky as fuck.
Like what direction?
Any other direction, any counter-position which goes, isn't it human nature to gravitate into groups so you can protect each other, so you can interact? That's how cultures thrive. It doesn't require any external manipulation. It's within human nature to do this, and other animals as well, to operate in packs like that and in groups and tribes. But you're making it something nefarious. Worse, you're making it nefarious based on anecdotal evidence in a book written 2,000 years ago by someone who it seems may have had psychological problems, profound ones,
Right.
which is backed up by zero empirical evidence and predicates on the notion that the future is preordained, in which case it would seem you don't have free will, and if you don't have free will, there's no moral basis for your religion in the first place. So you're actually destroying your own religion by believing the future's preordained. So it's so full of holes that you don't want to go there.
Yeah, but what I was trying to talk about was the why people living in cities.
I know, but I don't get the connection to the Bible, and I just think it's a natural gravitation.
No, because, no. What? So, you know, what I'm trying to say is that you say that people coming and end up living in cities. It's just a natural thing that people want to do. Whereas I'm trying to say it's something which was engineered.
I know you are, which is why you now sound like a conspiracy theorist, because you seem to be overriding the fact that it's what animals do anyway. I don't need to imagine another outside nefarious force to account for that aspect of human behaviour, any more than I need an outside nefarious force to account for the fact that human beings like to relax sometimes.
But animals don't. Animals will stay in a family group, but you won't get multiple families coming together.
Really? You haven't noticed in any of the David Attenborough documentaries you've ever watched over all the decades, you haven't noticed like those huge flocks of various animals, penguins and stuff, fish in schools. I mean, animals in virtually, there's very few animals who don't do that. It's amazing you haven't noticed that.
No, that's because of where their food is.
Hang on, I never said there wasn't a reason. We're just having a statement of fact.
Hi, how are you, Tony?
You okay? How are you doing?
What are yourself?
How are you?
All right, yeah.
Hello.
I'm okay. You?
Good. I'm feeling a bit.
Do you like to be?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a bad back, and it makes it more comfortable, and it feels nicer.
Why you don't get flat?
I've got flat shoes.
Oh yeah, like
I normally flat shoes, but even barefoot, even nicer.
I like the way you're walking like this, you know, barefoot, you know.
Yes,
Natural,
Like, you know,
natural.
I mean, look at me, you know.
Well, you can
barefoot
take,
is
dude,
the-
you can take them off.
That's true, you know. But when I put them in my trainers, yeah.
Anyway, back to what we were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
sorry, I see.
Yeah.
So,
When-
I know, but you have to.
So I'm a bit lackluster today. I feel like, you know those days when you turn up and you think, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have come. I feel a bit low energy and
You feel like that? Or
a bit today, yeah, to be honest. And unfortunately, no offence, I'm having a chat with a guy who seems to put a fair amount of credence in the Book of Revelations, which is something I think.
But remember, I'm talking about things happening in the world.
But
So
you're looking at an anecdotal book for evidence.
Yeah, I know.
And why should I
Alright.
take that book seriously?
But remember, I'm going through the world parts first. That's what I'm trying to.
I think I need to duck out the conversation. The Book of there's certain conversations, like there's flat Earth conversations,
I know, yeah.
and occasionally I'll have a flat Earth conversation.
Yeah.
There's conspiracy theory conversations I try and avoid. Very occasionally I will. And then there's people who think things like Book of Revelation should be taken literally, and I'm like, nah. If you want to dig deeper into the implications of that, fine. But I don't just want to buy into concepts which predicate on going Book of Revelation's true, because it's so tenuous and nowhere.
But remember, I'm talking about actual things happening in real life that you can observe.
Yeah, but no, you're mixing things that happen in real life, which is people come to cities, and then you're factoring in something in an anecdotal book from 2,000 years ago,
Yeah, no, but
joining
that's-
dots that don't exist and
that's
trying
not-
to make it a thesis which sounds really no good.
Yeah, but that's not the end of it because they're in cities.
But the beginning's so bad, why would I want to get to the end? Your premise is so flat.
Yeah,
The
but
fact it's like me going, I've noticed people come into cities, and if I read the Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck manual in 1988, you'll notice that story seems to sync up with that proof, and I'm like, no, I'm not taking Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck very seriously.
yeah, no, the cities are just a part of it. So now they're in the cities.
Dude, please, politely, can I disengage from this? I did say in a minute, and I am telling you, there are people who'll discuss this stuff with you for hours and you'll agree, but I'm not one of them.
Okay.
I'm really trying to break down into slightly more fundamental topics.
Right. So when you talk with that Muslim guy for an hour, so
Which Muslim guy?
well, I saw the video. It was you're standing over there.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah. So what was that?
Sabur.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, Sabur.
Yeah.
We had a good discussion because he wanted to explore deeper ideas.
All right. But was he talking about things relating to what you observe in the world?
How do you mean?
Well, as we go through life, we see things happen.
Yeah.
So, working out why they happen.
My memory of the discussion was we were talking about defining our terms and epistemology. Which is like a key thing to discuss, and epistemology and the nature of truth. Those are discussions I want to have, okay? Because everything that you think predicates on your understanding of epistemology and truth. And if your definition of if your hierarchy of epistemology or your definition of truth isn't 100% accurate, then your thinking will inevitably be inaccurate. So you've got to get the roots right. What you want to have with me is a branch discussion about whatever. I want to discuss about the core topics, which is more philosophy. Yeah?
So you're more into the philosophy that you're trying to seek after. Is it for fixing the world?
Yeah, ideally. Well, improving it. Just improving the world and me and whatever. Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to trying to improve the world, do you think it can be done just with philosophy, or do you think a bit of?
No, absolutely not.
All right, so
no way can you just?
All right, so what else?
It's not even the main thing.
Right. So what else?
However, it's kind of like I think philosophy provides maps, and I think what's necessary is to climb the mountain for each individual, metaphorically, and it helps if you got a map. But just because you got a map doesn't mean you're going to climb the mountain. You could just sit at the bottom of the mountain going, "Hey, I got a great map."
Yeah.
Climbing the mountain requires actual moral qualities and exertion, not philosophy. And the people who climb the mountain without a map are probably the best people, because when they climb it by a new way without a map, when they come back down, they draw everybody a new map and go, "Hey, I found another way up through my own hard work and effort." So those are the very, very best people, but most of us need a bit of a map.
But I suppose here's the classic thing. So who defines when the person has the best morals, and who defines what the mountain is?
What? Maybe not who, maybe what defines it. I'm assuming and hoping there is a moral mountain, a moral and teleological mountain to climb, yeah? For each individual in life. You're making choices. Thank you for that. You're climbing a mountain. Each person's life consists of choices. Right. Some choices are clearly better than others. The top of the mountain represents the life where you make the best choices, yeah? And this seems to be a common theme in religions, uniformly. So the question is, how do you make the best decision? That's so productive. That's so productive.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well done, mate. Brilliant.
Right. So the goal you're after does it involve trying to get
the best choices? How do we make the best choices?
Well, but does it? Remember what we said about the cities? Does it involve trying to get a group of people to do this, or is it for individuals?
Individuals. I think philosophy and religion is at the individual level, and I think it's a mistake to apply it at the tribal or collective level first. Primarily, it's about each individual soul.
Yeah.
And then, secondarily, that paves off at a societal level.
Yeah.
But the primary thing is you and your existential choices and the merits of those. Yeah. And it seems to me that a lot of religions provide very good prescriptive ideas as to how to enhance your ability to make good choices, yeah? Your moral decisions.
Oh, but you're just talking this life we live in.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know what you said there about it's down to the individuals?
Yeah. Primarily.
Primarily. But then, if all of those individuals, say like you have 1,000 of them, have slightly varying things that they decide to go after,
which is inevitable,
yeah, how would you be able to get them together?
Because now you're talking politics, and politics is about how you mediate power dynamics and relationships between multiple individuals. But religion, I think, is primarily psychology, is about how any given individual mediates their own choices and optimizes their potential, yeah? So religion and psychology is higher up the value hierarchy than politics. If each individual is making good choices and optimizing their potential, then the collective should naturally end up doing pretty well, yeah? If all of the individuals in the collective are making bad bloody individual choices, and I don't care what political system you've got, you'll end up with chaos. So, I mean, I'm in the Jordan Peterson camp on this. His idea about clean up your own house first, is, I think, correct. And the reason, I'm not a libertarian, I think we're all profoundly interconnected, but the atomic building block of reality is the individual. And religion, I think, is about that. And I think when religion starts mixing itself with politics, it's making a mistake.
Right, well, when you say about religion being about the individual...
it's about individual souls. I think every religion seems to frame its narrative that you have a soul, you're responsible for its destiny, it's got a potential, and that potential will be judged, that destiny will be judged on how well you make the choices and how well you handle the soul you're responsible for,
Yeah.
And also that all souls are equal. That narrative seems common to most religions. And I'd buy it. Everybody's equal. We're all on the journey. We want to make the best choices. And multiple religions inform how to do that, I think, very well.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean they're not problematic as well, but it means they're not just problematic, they've also got deep roots in some important stuff.
Right. Because so I can sort of see why you'd be against the stuff that's in Revelation, because
it's too literal.
No, but what it is, when I read it, the overall aim of it is dealing with evil. That's the overall aim of the Book of Revelation.
That's another. I don't believe in evil as an active force. I believe in evil as a passive consequence of a lack of effectively balance. Evil is what follows. So that I don't believe in. I'm not a dualist.
Yeah.
And most of the religions are monistic, and Islam flies the flag from being monistic. So I think things are distilled to a single principle, not a binary. So I don't see evil as a counterforce to good. I see it as a consequence of a lack of good.
All right. Oh, good. But this is one of the big things in the Bible as well. Is that this is just from what I'm reading myself, and that is that it actually is trying to.
So are you filming? Are we on film?
Yeah, well.
So I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't. No,
sorry, I thought we were just talking.
All right, no, because I presume because you were filming.
No, I didn't. I thought we were just talking. I mean, I don't mind. I just didn't.
Right.
I only just clocked that we're on film. It doesn't matter.
All right.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, because the way you see, normally if I see people who've already on film, I don't.
Okay. I'm not aware that I'm that much on film compared with a lot of those major things.
I've seen you a few times.
I've rolled in a few times, but I don't have a channel or anything like that.
Yeah, but
I'm not making any money here, right?
No, but
I don't have a channel, and I'm not one of the. I've never been up on a ladder.
Oh yeah, but the Muslims like filming you. I've noticed because they.
Well, I like talking with some of them. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding because I think there's good to be found in a lot of religions.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I want to mediate it's very boring and inaccurate that the Muslims and the Christians, some of them are so at each other's throats because they keep concentrating on some of their differences, which are obvious, and problematic, and they're both correct. Yeah. I think a lot of the Muslims, they look at the Christians and they notice accurately problems with the Christian intellectual framework, and a lot of the Christians look at the Muslims and notice problems with their intellectual framework, and they're both right. But what they're not doing is spending some time talking about the common things that they have where they're both getting it right. And I think you should be doing both things to keep it in context and balance. If the only thing I ever do when I talk with you is notice your bad points and keep emphasizing your negatives, and you only ever emphasize my negatives, and I never point out also that you've got a nice smile, for example, which isn't showing on the camera, that you're rather articulate. I get quite a good vibe off you actually, even though I disagree with the Revelation thing. If I don't contextualize our conversation by balancing in both elements of what seems true over all of you, then inevitably we'll just end up hacking away at each other and distorting reality.
Yeah, but you see, I realise that when you do that, that's when you cause people just to stay divided.
Yeah.
So in order to stop the division, people have to compromise and be reasonable with each other. It's
but I think one of the key ways to be reasonable in this situation is for people to spend a bit of time talking about what is common in their faith. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's so much. There are so many overlapping principles at the deep roots of a lot of different faiths. Yeah. That should be of interest to you and something you can dwell on and explore simultaneously with being critical of some of it as well. You should do both things.
But I suppose there's something I should explain though, that one of the reasons why you have this contention between Muslims and Christians is because some of us actually dig into
So you Christian?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what some of us do is we dig into the history and realize that there's some of the things which are being said are not quite how they seem.
What in everything I just said makes you think that I didn't include that? You just raised a point that I already covered. I said I understand that there are areas of disagreement.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm just pointing out there are also areas of strong agreement. And there are also good principles in Islam. The 5 pillars, I keep saying, in Islam, prescriptively, seems pretty rock solid good news. Yeah. In Christianity, the Sermon on the Mount seems rock solid good news. Anybody who can't acknowledge those 2 statements, I think, is being disingenuous. Okay, and seeing as these seem to be core prescriptions of either of those religions, they're not just peripheral to the religion. I think they sit at the core of those religions. We should be kind of celebrating and discussing those points, not constantly harping out about small doctrinal differences about even the Trinity. I don't think the Trinity is very important, okay? I don't care that much. I don't happen to believe in the literal Trinity. But I don't think it invalidates how interesting and powerful Christianity is.
Yeah, but
I think it's a peripheral thing that people have got distracted with.
But actually, apparently, it's something that the Muslims are taught. So the scholars actually teach.
Yeah, because quite rightly they've noticed the weaknesses in the Christian intellectual architecture.
Yeah.
And there's 2 key weaknesses. One is, I think, the standard Christian interpretation of the original sin, and the other is the idea of the Trinity, which actually I can kind of work with because I come from a different tradition and that's slightly more complex. But they tend to attack on those 2 points and bang, hit. You guys tend to hit back on things like Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old.
No, but I don't.
Okay, well you may not, but there's a hell of a lot of that, and also over-literalism in Islam. I think conservative Islam, is more in conflict with science than maybe Christianity is. I think conservative Islam's insistence on taking absolutely every syllable of the Quran 100% accurately, I think unfortunately is a profound mistake. Okay,
but
I think if the Quran were 95% accurate, it would still make it a great piece of work. Yeah. To go that this book is rubbish unless it's 100% accurate always is a very strange way to look at something.
Well, apparently, some guy's been doing some looking at like Sharia law, and one of the statements he keeps making is that the Quran's been abrogating.
Yeah. Okay.
So apparently now, it's what Muslims are supposed to go by is the interpretation of the scholar.
Yeah.
So not the actual literal text they read. So they have to. What their belief is now, as a Sunni Muslim officially, is whatever the scholar says the text means.
Yeah, you think it's been distorted, yeah? You think that the text and the interpretation has been distorted to some extent, yeah?
Well, I suppose it's obvious. If a scholar has control of the interpretation, then if that scholar's biased, you can expect some sort of bias in their interpretation.
So is that a yes? You do think that?
Well, I'd say yes, because if you actually look at the commentaries of the Quran, you'll notice that any verses in there which are a bit ambiguous.
Now, hang on, I'm not arguing with you. I just want to be clear. You are saying yes. You think there's been some distortion, yeah? I don't believe that any religion is 100% accurate. Okay? That doesn't put me off them. I don't go, well, if you're not 100% accurate, you're not good enough for me. I'm going, yeah, but you're 90 to 90. There's some really strong and powerful, resonant, important stuff in there. I'm not going to throw you out the door just because you're not 100% perfect. I'm not expecting perfection.
Yeah.
Because I think religion, to some extent, is man's response. Let's put it this way. Is at best man's response to the divine. And man's response will always be fallible and finite and make mistakes. So I expect mistakes. So I'm not going to stand there and be slack-jawed and amazed whenever everything isn't perfect. That's silly.
Yeah, but going back to what you were saying about remember when you said that evil was
an absence of good.
But you see it as the evil that happens is as an end result of something. I think that's
a lack of. I think if you're a monist, if you're a monotheist, and you believe in effectively one central principle, which is benign, assume it's benign for the minute. My understanding of evil in a text like the Kabbalah, and I'm a fan of the Kabbalah, and I think in Buddhism and whatever, is that evil is more a matter of imbalance. It's a matter of when you overemphasize. Good is about harmony. It's about keeping the right balance between the different aspects of your psyche and your persona. And when you overemphasize one above the other, yeah. In other words, in the Kabbalah, they have two pillars. Do you know the tree of life?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Because the Kabbalah is the esoteric tradition, which is under the bonnet of Judaism. Okay?
Yeah.
In the same way, I think that Sufism is the esoteric tradition under the bonnet of Islam, I think.
Well, apparently Sufis are supposed to be like an original form of Islam.
Yeah. I
But
think
it's ancient.
I believe so, and I don't know much about Sufism hardly at all, but the little bits I read make me think it seems very similar to Kabbalism. For example, I think in Sufism, they assume that God is intrinsic to reality, and so with Kabbalism, and I think so with Christianity, because you think he's omnipresent, yeah?
Yeah.
So we envisage God, all of those religions, and I think Christianity envisage God as being within the fabric of this existence here and now, and within us. In some sense I can't fully understand, yeah? God is present now. Whereas I think in the conservative Islamic tradition, they view God as being extrinsic to the cosmos.
Yeah.
And if your decision as to whether you view God as being extrinsic or intrinsic will fundamentally mold your thinking in two different directions.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
It really, really will. It creates a very, very, very different paradigms and axioms and assumptions. So if you believe that God is intrinsic to reality, it really isn't very difficult to grasp the notion that God was in Jesus. Because of course God's in Jesus, because God's in everything. It's inevitable. I mean, it's stupid to, right? Yeah. Whereas if you think God is extrinsic to reality, then it presents a real problem as to how did something infinite get shoved into something small and finite, yeah? And it seems like a mind-blowing... So the real nature of the problem is to backtrack into whether God is extrinsic or intrinsic. And if you deal with it at that level, you're dealing with the root difference. Otherwise, you'll always disagree.
Yeah.
I think. So I don't have a problem with God being intrinsic and God being in Jesus and you and me and everything, because I've come from that tradition and the more Kabbalistic and I think maybe Sufi tradition, where we've had to grapple with how can it be that something infinite and perfect can simultaneously be finite and fractured. Yeah, because it seems like a paradox. How do we square that circle?
When you say fractured,
well, if God is here within the finite, fallible, broken aspects of reality, and simultaneously is infinite and perfect. How do we? In all of these narratives, there has to be a line of communication from the infinite to the finite. Yeah.
But one thing, the way I see it is that what we're in here now, the perfect is still here, but it's just the perfect has been used to create the imperfect. Because if you look at something like atoms, you notice how even I was thinking about this earlier today. Not even atoms, the magnetism. So magnetism is like a form of infinite energy, isn't it? Because it can go against gravity, like stick it to a ceiling, and it's defying gravity forever, isn't it?
Yeah, magnetism is a much stronger force than the force of gravity.
Oh no, but what I mean is the fact that it doesn't wear out. The fact it doesn't wear out.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting observation. You're right, because it's an implicit, intrinsic law of nature, force in nature.
Well, it's to do with the polarization of the atoms because if they line up, because they lined up so well. That's where they can form the magnetic.
Right, you're talking about a bar magnet, but I think it goes. It goes deeper than that.
Yeah, but what my point is that
electromagnetism is a key property of the physical universe.
Yeah, but I'm saying that because of the fact that it's infinite. Sorry, it's
you can't exhaust it.
Yeah, just like the binding energy of atoms.
Yeah.
So to me, those are things which are a part of the perfection of God.
Yeah, they're the inevitabilities of the physical of the universe. Yeah.
Yeah, but they were just so that perfection was used to make the imperfection. Because the imperfection that we grow old. No, the fact that we grow old, you know that is just an engineered process?
No, you just made that up. That's just, now hang on, where did you get that from? Where did you get that crazy idea from? The fact that we grow old is down to, it would seem, the first law of thermodynamics.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, the second law of thermodynamics, I'm talking rubbish. Entropy.
Yeah.
The tendency of a system to move into chaos, and that once something breaks, it doesn't reconstitute. Energy becomes more disorganized. Although I'm realizing, to be honest, I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about, and I half know. But from a recent conversation I had with somebody, I don't think I've totally nailed down entropy. Because I think if entropy is a measure of disorganization, it seems that if you believe in a Big Bang, you'll start with very high order, then it will blow out into levels of disorder, but then it would finally thin out into levels where all of the energy levels equilibrated, and you were kind of back to a level of order again, strangely enough. So it's not just moving from order to chaos, it's sort of going from order to levels of disorder, which then blank back out into levels of order again. But maybe I'm misunderstanding. If anybody can educate me more on this, I'd like to know.
Well, I suppose what I'm... The statement I made about growing old being engineered.
That is, but entropy's in that. You're in the curve of a move from order to disorder.
Right, but
it's aging you.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It just does it to everything.
All right.
Sorry.
But you know, when you look at something like the sun.
Yeah.
So going by that, the sun would be aging as well.
Well, the atoms. All of the energy states in the universe, I believe, are in a state of entropy. And I think that's connected, I'm not a physicist, I think that's connected. If the universe is expanding, you've got the same amount of matter stroke energy in a bigger and bigger space. Therefore it's becoming more and more diffuse and thinning out.
Right, but I don't know if you, have you looked into like how life is kept you know what you said about the chaos, you know, about things go towards chaos, but do you know...
Matter and energy levels,
Yeah, but do you know what it is that keeps like the life on Earth from happening too? Because notice that we actually regenerate. So then when a man and woman come together, they actually come up with a baby, and the baby's a new human.
You're kidding, really?
Yeah. But so that means there's a process there whereby this going to chaos can be held back. Something's holding it back. Because even though
there's a force working against it, but it's not working against it with extremely enough to counteract it, but it is sort of delaying it. And there's a philosopher, is it Bennett or Dennett? Maybe. No, maybe it isn't. I can't remember. He died in 1900, and he very much conceived the universe as being matter and energy moving it towards chaos, and the human psyche and life working internally in the opposite direction against it. So the consciousness and the human psyche is attempting to fight to move things towards ordered systems, and it's working against matter and energy, which is moving towards chaos. Which is quite a dualistic model, but actually it's also very interesting.
Yeah, although I don't know if you looked into, you know, the fact that we have DNA in all our cells.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you know that it's actually the DNA is like the engine, the force that actually holds back the chaos. Because what it does is
it's a force. It's a structure which.
Well, it's what's the best way to describe it? It's an information store.
Nice.
Which is used to make sure that the organisms themselves stay in a functioning state.
Yeah, they're trying to ratchet hold. They're trying to get their foot in the door and hold on to a particular. They're sort of climbing the ladder. As we evolve and we climb the ladder, we tend to do it in stages, and it's a struggle. And then we equilibrate at one level, and we're in parity with our environment for a while. And then you've got to speculatively try and climb a bit more of the ladder as the environment shifts. And so evolution upgrades you via your DNA defaults that way. Yeah, right. I think that's how I'm viewing it.
Yeah, but I suppose what I'm trying to say is that because that DNA is the information that's used by the machines in us in order to keep us in a certain way.
Carry on.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying about old age being engineered. Because if old age was just based on entropy, then there's certain critical parts of our body.
And I am having this conversation, aren't I? Book of Revelations and the idea that aging is engineered, these to me are both way out in the wacky land. And somehow, because you seem very nice, and actually this conversation's rolled quite well.
Yeah.
But how come I'm flirting again with these ideas, which I think are incredibly improbable? the idea that aging, because I feel we're about to get to a point where you go, there may be a solution so we don't need to age anymore or something. Are you heading there?
No, I'm just explaining.
Okay, but then why is it necessary to say it's been engineered? Why isn't it just the laws of nature naturally produce this effect?
Because I was just going to say, you know, when it comes to, because this is something I thought about, that when it comes to old age, if it was based just on like entropy or, you know, the second law of thermodynamics, then when we age...
I'm not saying it's just that, but I'm saying that's I think the overarching backdrop, which means it has to flow that way.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is that when we age, if it was based just on that, then our body would uniformly break.
I just said it's not just that.
All right.
As long as I don't think it's just entropy. I think it's a function of entropy. But there's going to be other things, yeah?
Yeah, so if it was just, if it was uniform, the actual breaking down of our bodies, then we would actually end up dying too quickly.
Okay, if we're like, there's a river, we're in a river, and the river is carrying us inevitably downstream, and we are doing our best to swim against the current upstream, okay? And the fact we're swimming upstream means we're travelling down the river far slower than we normally would if we just sit there and float. If we float, we're going to go down very fast. If we swim against it, we can delay the inevitable and have a little bit more control. That would seem to be our condition.
But remember, some fish can actually go up.
Salmon, that's the metaphor. Salmon, they go back up and whatever. So we're in that situation. But I don't think we ever travel back up the river. But we can delay and curtail it. You know, we can fight that force, but we're never going to overcome it.
Yeah, but what I was going to, because this is something that I was thinking about, is that, like I knew like a few people like who are old, like, you know, got to their 80s and 90s. And they kind of made me think about this as well, in that if aging was just based on the body uniformly breaking down, then people who are old, they'd be in some serious problems.
They are. That's why they die. That is the serious problem. They die.
Yeah, I know. But one of the things I was thinking of is that, all right, so the skin gets more wrinkled, and your knees like go a bit, and
a lot.
Yeah.
In my case, carry on. Yeah.
And you know, eyesight goes. But then what I realized is that, you know, you inside your heart.
Yeah, that goes too.
Yeah, but if your valves age even slightly, then because the valves are like a critical part of
you're in trouble.
So in an old person, the valves actually have to stay in a properly functioning state. So
they won't. So you'll die.
No, but when you look relatively, you can have an old woman with a stick bent over, but in order to keep her alive, her actual the valves in her heart, they still have to function in a very the proportion of how well they have to function is way more than, say, her mind or her eyes.
I think that's why we call them the vital organs, don't we? As long as the vital organs keep doing their stuff, you can lose a few of the set, like the eyes are actually not a vital organ. I mean, I'm very attached to them, but if I'm going to have my one eye go, or like my heart stop, I'll lose an eye. Yeah, it's not as vital as my heart. If it's two eyes on my heart, maybe I will lose my heart because I don't want to be blind.
But that's why I was saying it's engineered, because for a person to be old and actually still like be able to go around, you know, and just shuffle around. Some parts of them can deteriorate and allow them to shuffle.
That's why they're vital. The vital organs are the ones at the top of the hierarchy that will therefore last the longest. And the reason they last the longest is because evolution has sorted them out that way, and it's leveraged them, because when you leverage those vital organs, the organism will live longer. That's why it's inevitable it would happen if you believe in evolution. What's the problem? Do you believe in evolution?
Oh shit. No, because
there's certain things. Do you believe the Earth is round, more round than flat?
No, round.
Thank fuck. Okay, fine. Just checking. There's basic things, but you don't believe in evolution.
No, but there's a like obvious reason for me anyway.
What?
Because when it comes to evolution, I know that a lot of the evolutionists, I suppose that's what you call them, say that it's based on mutations.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not claiming to be an expert.
Yeah, so this is the big thing that I wouldn't mind if some evolutionists could actually find this out.
What?
And the
Well, mutation clearly occurs, yeah?
Yeah.
Whenever a kid is conceived, there's a chance there will be a mutation. I think the evidence for that seems fairly overwhelming, yes?
Yeah.
I've only got to show you Siamese twins.
Oh yeah,
Or
but
hermaphrodites.
yeah. But what I mean is that you remember the difference between the beneficial mutations and the detrimental ones?
Well, that's worked out later in the arena of the environment. What's beneficial or not isn't known when the mutation occurs. It's tested in the environment, and if it leverages your survivability, then it becomes the beneficial thing. So it's not beneficial at the moment of inception. At the moment of inception, it's a neutral mutation.
But that's the interesting part, though, is that you're saying about the environment.
Yeah.
So when I've been thinking about this, the way it seems to me that that evolutionists say that it happens is that the mutations cause certain differences.
Yeah.
And it's the beneficial differences.
Yeah, but the mutation isn't beneficial. The mutation is random, yeah? And then the random thing goes out in the world, and if the random thing that's happened, yeah, I mean, the giraffe is the example normally used. You know, if the giraffe's neck is a little bit longer, randomly, then it can reach higher leaves, which means pound for pound it can compete for leaves better than other ones. It's more likely to survive. That becomes the new DNA default. Its offsprings therefore have a greater chance of having a longer neck, and so on.
Yeah.
Back in the day when evolution was first thought of, it was thought that the giraffe's act of reaching for the leaf may have been a stimulus for the DNA to change. But with hindsight,
Epigenetics, basically.
No, that isn't epigenetics, I don't think. But anyway, I don't think it is. But I think in the Darwinian model, it's just purely random.
Yeah, that doesn't.
And it gets
Darwin.
tested later. Epigenetics is a deeper thing.
It's this outside influence to change DNA.
But no, standard evolution, standard genetics assumes that the environment changes. It changes the DNA. The environment doesn't change the DNA. The environment tests whether the adaptation is advantageous to survival.
Yeah, post. So you have the mutation first.
And you can see this in the lab, I think, with things like fruit flies and moths, and it's pretty much kind of done. And it's quite surprising that this still gets debated too much, because it's not an attractive idea. I don't like the idea. I prefer it didn't work this way, okay? Because it's got some very potentially dark implications about the selfish gene and about us being rather robotic and just, meat puppets and some really nasty implications I don't like. But in the face of a huge amount of factual evidence, it doesn't seem wise to run away. It seems better to run towards the frightening thing and hope that you can find out how to contextualize it in a better way than just bury your head in the sand and pretend it's not true.
But epigenetics is I deal more with epigenetics than actual genetics, even though it's the same branch. But because with genes, you can open and close genes, and you can open and close genes of outside influences through stress and also chemicals, and also through the circadian clock. So basically,
okay, this sounds significant.
Yeah. So basically, let's just say, even say the amount of sleep you have, and you're outside your circadian
I chuck him on camera
clock,
right now. He may be saying some really interesting stuff.
You can 100% turn on and turn off genes. You can literally mold intricate things of the human or any organism, bacteria, fungi, whatever, through epigenetics. Epigenetics is very powerful.
But epigenetics is a refinement of the basic Darwinian model, and the Darwinian model alone does account for evolution and mutation. Epigenetics implies that individual psychology and choices can influence the state of the gene.
No, that's not epigenetics. Epigenetics is outside influences, outside of the organism, turning on and off genes. I want to say it again. Epigenetics.
No one asked you to. We heard
I
it.
want to say it again. Epigenetics is outside influences turning on and off genes. It could be stress or trauma.
That's what I said.
Circadian
That's what I
clock.
just said. Why did you disagree with me? That's what I just said.
Yeah.
Exactly. It could be stress.
But for me, that's why I don't really deal with genetics. Genetics is, basically, genetics is so broad. I have to find like a very specific thing.
Why did you take issue with what I said when I said epigenetics pertains to individual choices and experience? That's why.
No, because it's not the individual's choice to be influenced by outside factors.
That's why what I said was choice and experience. Okay? Because as I understand it, and I may well be wrong, some of the key research on epigenetics came through concentration camp survivors, the offspring of women who've been in concentration camps, where it seems that their stress level within the concentration camp had influenced the epigenetic switches within their offspring, and that therefore was their personal experience. That adaptation didn't happen as a random mutation when they were born, it happened as an experience within their life, which seemed to modify the genes, which is interesting because then it implies that individual choice and experiences within your life can encode at a DNA level and carry on into the evolutionary chain.
100% agree with that.
Which then entangles us in a moral framework more profoundly, and it's interesting, but you can't see that potential light at the end of the tunnel unless you buy into Darwinian evolution first and dig deeper. So epigenetics might be a way out of the apparent dark tunnel that genetics seem to be, that Darwinian evolution seems to be leading you into. So you've got to have faith and just walk into the darkness and hope you come out the other end, maybe, which is what religion's about, isn't it?
Well, I don't know, but anyway, it's nice. It's nice speaking to you.
And you, I do him now because I think he knows a reasonable amount about the way you were talking.